Hey, y'all, it's Rick here with Uncommon Communion. I'm doing something a little bit different today. It's September 11th, and this is a significant day for me personally in my family's history and in my history. And I want to tell that story. I'm not going to do it in this first video. I'm recording two videos today because in this first video, I want to talk about this day after the murder, the killing of Charlie Kirk. And I want to parallel Charlie Kirk with someone who died on this day, on September 11th, 2001, Father Mychal Judge. So I want to talk a little bit about that in this first video. The second video will be my personal story and also telling you more about Father Judge's story and sharing with you a wonderful prayer and book that Father Judge, a couple books that you can use. So I'm going to start, as I always start, by remembering and celebrating and affirming that we are always and everywhere in the holy presence of God and each other. I was upset and disturbed and angry when I heard the news of the killing of Charlie Kirk. Now, I want to say a couple of things right up front. First of all, I am not calling it an assassination. And the reason is that, in my understanding of assassination, it is a political leader who has been elected to a position. So maybe that's putting too fine a point on it, but he was a leader, certainly in political, but that he was not an elected official. So might be too fine a point, but I want to talk about that as a murder, as a killing. Certainly, possibly, we don't know yet, might have had political ramifications or political reason. And part of the problem, y'all, is right now is we don't know. As I record this, more information has come out. They've put out a picture of a white, young, college-age man that they say is a person of interest, a suspect. They are saying that bullets found in the gun had things written on them about trans and other types of things, but we just don't know yet. And that's what concerns me so deeply, is when you hear and see some of the things that people on the right in MAGA are saying, including the president himself. They're calling for war as a result of this. And I'm not going to put links to this, but you can look this up. I saw these today on some of the people I listen to and watch on Substack. They were showing these leaders on that side of America. It is America, after all, calling for war on the liberals, war on the Democrats, war on other Americans as a result of this. And that is deeply, deeply disturbing and troubling. First of all, again, like I said, we don't know yet anything about this person, right? We also know that this is part of a whole, right? Sending National Guards in, putting people into detention centers with masked guards, that is also a war on Americans. So, what is happening here is these influencers, these voices, the president of this country is calling for an escalation of the war on their political enemies, who they are assuming are behind this. And I just want to say this, y'all. If you look at the left, there's rhetoric there. I know there's people online saying sick, horrible, terrible things, from left perspectives. But the leaders on the left, to my knowledge, all of them have said some truth. They've spoken the truth. Charlie Kirk was a pretty vile communicator. The things he talked about, the things he said, the things that he supported were pretty ugly. And yet he had a right to say what he said, and he had a right to safety, and his death, his murder is wrong, and political violence is wrong. Every influential, every leader, every key person who I would listen to on the left, and I'm a lefty, I'll be honest, is saying that same message. So there isn't this, both sidesism. The MAGA wants you to believe in both sidesism, but it is not true. Also, one of the things is that there are consequences for our actions. And when you are a person like a Charlie Kirk who is upholding the rights of anyone, who has blocked legislation for anyone to be able to have weapons of war, weapons for mass destruction, and you are speaking publicly, you are putting yourself at the risk of a consequence of this happening. And quite honestly, y'all, he died doing exactly what his mission was, at least what he saw, speaking about mass shootings and blaming them on trans people, blaming them on everyone but the gun lobby, the gun makers, and the politicians who time and again block any sort of common sense legislation. So he died in a way, yes, it was at the hands of violence, gun violence. He died in a way that was consistent in his mission, right? I want to talk to you about someone else who died on this day, 2001, September 11th. In fact, he is officially listed as the first victim of 9/11. He is victim 0001. And that's Father Mychal Judge. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about his story. He is a remarkable individual, y'all. And I'm going to put links to some books. I'll put that in the other video that I'm going to do after this. He also died doing what he did for his mission, which was caring for people, not just caring for people, but for firemen and women, fire people, right? And he was the chaplain for the New York City Fire Department. When he heard the call on 9/11, he, like so many other firefighters that day, and police officers and doctors and all sorts of people, they ran toward that building, right? They didn't run from it. They ran towards those buildings on fire at risk of collapsing. And Father Judge was killed by falling debris. And there's that very famous photo of him being carried out, his body being carried out by 5 firefighters. And that is heroism, y'all. That is what a life well lived and a death well given. A life given and a death consistent with the good and the blessing and the goodness. And I think on a day like today, we need to uphold Father Mychal Judge, and we need to uphold all the many firefighters and police officers and all sorts of folks who died on that day because they were going to help others, right? Charlie Kirk, if he was murdered by a leftist, somebody with a political agenda, any of that, he died as a result of something that he supported, gun availability. He died doing what he did, right? Which was speaking out for greater gun rights, speaking out against transgender people, speaking out against people. And his death was consistent with that. Father Mychal Judge, who is the one we want to remember. I know there's people that are lionizing and martyrizing Charlie Kirk, but as anyone who does that, what are they saying? What values are they saying? Yes, he spoke out. Yes, he was bold. Yes, he was influential, great organizer, and so on and so forth. But we sometimes have to look at the messenger and the message. You know, if the message is one of evil and hatred and division and death, then no matter what the messenger did or how the messenger dies, there is a problem and a cancer, and not something we want to point at if we are a sane, caring, compassionate society. And y'all, it really seems like a good chunk of our society no longer, at least publicly, in spaces like the internet and elsewhere, are upholding that. And I think as a result, it is absolutely essential that we uphold the heroes, the helpers, the Father Mychal Judges, and the many, many other people who died 26 years ago, or 24 years ago, excuse me, my math is off, today, right? So that's what we want to do. And again, I hope you look at my other video. I'm going to put some links there about Father Judge. If you don't know his story, today is a great day to learn his story and to celebrate his story and to share his story. So I close with the Serenity Prayer. Let us actually close with St. Francis's prayer for peace, and just a prayer for peace and calm and reasonable nature in people that are angry, people that want to distract from the corruption and the rot and the decay that we have in this country right now. So let us pray for all people, for peace, for kindness, for empathy, and for compassion, and for remembering and honoring those brave people who gave their life today and who also died, I should say, as a result of that day. The firefighters who got sick from the work that they did on the pile, as they called the ground zero, the rubble at that point. So again, y'all, blessing and good, be bold, be well.